Alright, Star Wars Visions Season 3. I actually watched it, and I'm gonna quickly review most of the episodes, starting with the first one, The Duel. I do like the art style, and the fight choreography was pretty decent. However, I'm not really a fan of this Japanese aesthetic. I'd prefer if it looked more like how Star Wars actually looks. If we're going to be doing what is essentially Star Wars fanfiction, I'd prefer if it actually felt like it existed within the Star Wars universe. I like the idea of a Darksider who hunts the Sith, and if you're going to have a story about Darksiders as the protagonist, you frame a Jedi as the antagonist like it is in this episode. That's how you're supposed to do it. And I think the Acolyte probably would have been better if it was focused more on the Sith or the dark side users, the Dark Jedi in that, and then you have the Jedi in that framed as the antagonists. That would have been more interesting, that probably would have worked better, but that would require actual talent, which the writers for that show didn't possess. We do meet a new Darksider in this, and her lightsabers, I'm not really a fan of it. I think it's just a bit too ridiculous. It's a bit too silly, and it's kind of over the top in a way that isn't cool. I just think it's kind of lame. And then on to episode 2, The Song of Four Wings. This one, I do like the art style and the aesthetic. I feel like it looks like Star Wars, but other than the character design and the overall aesthetic, I don't really have much else to say about this. It's kind of forgettable. Episode 3, The Ninth Jedi. This is going to be a spin-off. It's going to have its own series, and I think this episode was pretty lackluster, especially compared to the first Ninth Jedi episode we got. Though I like the idea of Star Wars anime, I'm not really a fan of mixing in 3D models with 2D animation. It just doesn't look good to me. And maybe the show will actually be interesting, since it seems like this is completely its own canon timeline and not trying to fit in with the Disney canon or the Lucas canon. So maybe it will be good when the show actually comes out. Maybe it'll be decent, but this episode didn't really get me too excited for it. And I did watch this show twice, first with the Japanese dub and then with the English dub, and honestly, the Japanese dub is just better. The English voice acting, for the most part, is very mediocre, especially in this episode. But that's pretty typical as far as English dubs are concerned. Episode 4, The Bounty Hunters. This episode was pretty lame, and honestly didn't feel like Star Wars at all. It just felt like some random sci-fi anime story that isn't very exciting. And I thought the character designs were also boring as fuck. Episode 5, Yuko's Treasure. Skip it. Episode 6, The Lost Ones. This, like The Ninth Jedi, is a sequel to an episode we got in I think season 1, and again, the aesthetic, the art design for this, pretty good. This is the kind of Star Wars animation I want to see, because I just prefer 2D animation, especially with an anime art style, as opposed to the typical Clone Wars 3D animation that we've been getting from Disney. And I've always been a big fan of the Empire, and we get some Imperials in this, and they look great in animation, and the main character's old master I think is an Inquisitor in this, and that's kind of cool, I guess. He's also voiced by Mark Strong in the English dub, and he does a pretty good job. He also kind of looks like Griffith from Berserk. And I also liked their fight at the end. I thought it was well done. I'd almost prefer getting more of this character, this canon, this version of Star Wars, opposed to a Ninth Jedi series. After that last episode, I'd rather see more of this. Episode 7, The Smuggler. The Empire is very present in this episode, and it does feel like something that could exist within actual Star Wars, which is nice. And the quick duel between the Jedi and the Bounty Hunter was decent. Episode 8, The Bird of Paradise. I thought it was fine. And finally, episode 9, Black. It's 13 minutes of very abstract art, all of stormtroopers suffering and dying, and I think it's the most unique of all of these shorts or all of these episodes that Visions has ever had. I think it's the only one that actually takes some risks with the kind of story being told. It's not really a narrative. You're just watching all of this art with this jazz music playing. And if you're going to watch one piece of Visions media, I'd say just watch this. It's only 13 minutes. It's pretty interesting. And I do think the artwork is really impressive, and it kind of reminds me of Mob Psycho a little bit. So yeah, that's my review of Season 3. I'd say it's probably better than Season 2, and I guess it might be on par with Season 1. I don't really remember. If you watched it, let me know what you think of it. Since it's clearly just fanfic with a budget, I'm fine with it existing as a separate thing, not in the Disney canon or in the Lucas canon. Obviously, it's still produced by Disney, and you can definitely tell in some aspects, especially in season 2 from what I remember. But to me, it's like a similar idea to something like Star Wars Infinities, which is more of a what-if comic book series. This is fully just fanfic. You kind of understand Star Wars, so you kind of write your own story that's somewhat set in the Star Wars universe, or your own version of it. I don't think that's too offensive. I think it's fine. Overall, kind of a mediocre show, but some good ideas, some good artwork, and some good designs. And obviously, throughout all 3 seasons, there were some good choreographed fights as well. So yeah, like I said, let me know what you think of it below. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.